variety is good for the soul. This is the road to PRS.
Impact.
Hey, welcome back. It's time to talk about how to do load development on a PRS rifle. The how, not the what. I'm not here to show you a load that will shoot. I'm here to show you how to find out which load your rifle will shoot. My rifle's different from your rifle, and as always, you need to follow the safety rules and do it safely and completely so that you don't hurt yourself or damage your rifle. Today's loading is going to take advantage of CCI 450 primers, N140 powder, and Alpha OCD brass. This is brand new, unfired brass that I just prepped and am shooting. My prep for this brass is really simple because we don't have to do a bunch of fancy stuff like we would in F-class. We're not turning necks, we're not doing primer pockets, we're not doing flash holes, we're not doing any of that. All we're going to do is expand the neck with a 242 expander using a little bit of Imperial dry neck lube to make sure that expander doesn't stick. And then we're going to chamfer the inside and out of the case mouth using my Gerard trimmer because it's there and quick. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to get done. So once that brass is prepped, it's a matter of priming it with whatever priming tool you happen to be using and doing powder charges. We're going to do powder first because doing powder first has been successful for me in the past. I'm not saying you can't do seating depth first. I'm saying that doing powder charge first has been successful for me in the past. Before I started this process for developing the load, I started with a pressure test series. I started down at 30 grains and worked up until I started to see signs of being at a velocity that would be considered at or above max. Because this OCD brass is so hard in the head, it doesn't necessarily give pressure signs the same way you would see with Lapua brass. So you do have to be careful. Make sure you don't get your velocity too fast. I use the chronograph to keep myself safe. With the powder charges that were within limits for my acceptable pressures, I went to go do my testing. So this testing is going to take advantage of the Audette optimal charge weight ladder. I'm going to shoot this at 600 yards, mostly because the 600-yard range is more available to me than the 100-yard range. But nonetheless, I feel that this is a better way to find the right powder charge than some of the other methods used, even at 100 yards by me. The original test, as defined by Audette, was a single pass. But I'm going to do multiple passes to show the difference in the outcomes from pass to pass to pass, so we can see how relevant the results are from one pass to the next. Because you can get lucky with random dispersion, and we don't want luck to define our powder charge. We want something, well, defined as an objective test. On the first pass, we have this one and this one that look like really good spots. But I know from experience that there's likely only to be one node in this narrow of a velocity range, which means that we got to do it again to figure out which one it is. So let's give it another try. Here's our second pass. And you know, we really should go the best 2 out of 3, don't you think? Third pass. All right, I'm not a believer yet. Let's do it again. As a matter of fact, I did it a total of 5 times. So here's the fourth and then the fifth pass. And when I combine them together, I start to see a pattern that makes some sense. Now remember, this was fired over a 2.5-hour period. So the wind changed quite a bit, and I was not correcting for the wind. I was aiming at the letter X for each and every shot, trying to see where the shots landed reference each other. So what do we get out of all this? Well, we find really quickly that 32.4 to 32.6 is my powder charge, and oddly enough, it falls right there around 2950. You know that area where we tend to find dashers shoot anyway, in bench rest and F-class? Yeah, that spot. So in the end, we have a load developed for powder charge relatively quickly in one day without too much trouble. Now it does shoot relatively well the way it is, but I want to do seating depth to fine tune it a little bit. So that's the next step. I came back the next day with a bunch of ammunition loaded at 32.6 because it was a little colder that day and I didn't want to drop out the bottom, and did seating depth. I started at 20 off and worked my way back to 50 off, where I found something that looks pretty darn good. And that's where I stopped. I didn't need to do any additional fooling around with a load. I can tweak it as I go, as I see how it performs during practice and during matches. But ultimately, I have a load for this rifle at this point that's good to go. and I'm less than 80 rounds in to my load development cycle. Now, thinking about load development and the cost of components, I expended the better part of 100 rounds to do load development, and I have thousands of dollars of reloading equipment involved in this process. Is that the only way that you can shoot PRS? When I asked that question, I came across these guys. They make factory 6-dasher ammo, and I thought, why not? Let's compare my hand loads to their loads and see if this meets my requirements without all the expense and difficulty and time consumed loading ammo for myself. So that will be the next video. Before I go, leave me a comment below if you would like to see load development done exclusively at 100 yards. I have another rifle and a different cartridge that needs load development because it has a brand new barrel. I think it might be entertaining to see what the difference is between doing it there and doing it at 600 yards. All right, guys, until next time, shoot straight, do your load development process to find the best load for your rifle, and quit copying other people's loads because they don't work as well as you might think they do. And I'll see you in the next video.